Episode 9 by writer and director J.J. Abrams is set to include many different cameos from both the original trilogy and of course the prequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that a lot of fans are really looking forward to seeing in this film is exactly what J.J. Abrams is going to do in order to really connect all 9 movies together into one big movie that'll truly end the Skywalker saga. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with the moment between both Rey and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Specifically, a description of Rey inside of an ancient temple of some kind, walking through a narrow hallway. It's described that Rey is hearing Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice, talking to her, eventually telling Rey the same line fans heard in Episode 7, "These are your first steps." The next goes over Rey continuing to walk through the hallway that eventually leads to a large room full of Jedi statues where in the middle, it's described that the apparition of Obi-Wan is seen in the distance from Rey for a brief moment before walking into the shadows, luring Rey into a sacred place. The last goes over both the Obi-Wan apparition and Rey now face to face. This version of Obi-Wan is described as a mixture between both old and young. So I really want to go over a couple of parts about this that are really getting me very hyped for this movie, and exactly what both Chris and JJ are trying to do in the film in order to satisfy all fans alike, whether you're into the sequels, the originals, or the prequels. So when we look at everything here, the thing is that I think is a big risk by Disney is, of course, the actual design of Obi-Wan Kenobi by combining both the older version and the younger version of Obi-Wan into one being, if you will. Now, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. We've been hearing about this on and off these past couple of months or so, about Obi-Wan having a new look in this movie. It has been said before, just a couple of weeks ago actually, that this movie is going to have quite the number of twists and turns and how they will reflect on the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. And in fact, Richard E. Grant not too long ago during the Radio Times interview, he even said that there's going to be earth-shaking twists in this movie. So, could Obi-Wan Kenobi be delivering a certain truth in this sequence to the character of Rey, about her bloodline, or maybe even her lineage at that? The thing that gets me, though, is exactly where is she? Now, the first thing that I find very interesting is the mention of these Jedi statues that are all around in this large room that she eventually enters from the narrow hallway, where she's hearing voices of Obi-Wan Kenobi as she is walking through the hallway into this big room full of Jedi statues, where the apparition of Obi-Wan is eventually seen by Rey as a character. So, the thing here is this, we can tell that J.J. Abrams is trying to bring the Obi-Wan Kenobi segment in the sequel trilogy back into play here, in order to fully explain as to why we heard his voice in The Force Awakens. You know, that was one of the biggest mysteries, I believe, right? Why was Obi-Wan talking to Rey in Episode 7? Well, it seems as though that JJ wants to answer that big question in this movie, and it definitely does line up with the fact that this movie is going to answer a ton of burning questions from, of course, The Force Awakens that were not answered in Episode 8. So, that's one thing to look forward to. As far as Obi-Wan goes, though, you know, there have been hints before a couple of days ago that they do plan to use CGI techniques in order to recreate the character of Obi-Wan, kind of similar to what they did with Cushing as, of course, Grand Admiral Tarkin, how they recreated him in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. You know, you can see the technology. You know, it is there. They can do a very good job, especially with the voice, you know. If they really want to nail this, they really do have to get it done well and right and spend a lot of time on it. In order for it to truly resonate with fans, I think it really does have to be convincing to the point where we can say, yeah, that's Obi-Wan, and yeah, I buy that. I think that if they can do that, then it will be all fine. Now, I believe that this is based within the Lost City. We do know that the Lost City is going to be quite a very interesting part of Episode 9 since it does take place underneath the surface of a mysterious world that is coming into play in this movie that will actually reveal a lot of revelations, not just for the character of Rey, but also for Jedi and Sith lore that J.J. Abrams will be implementing into this film. So with that being said, guys, what do you think about Obi-Wan Kenobi being a mixture between both old and young, and actually talking to Rey as she is going through the narrow hallway, making her way into this room full of Jedi statues? Again, we can see that this is another great example of Jedi lore being inserted into the actual movie itself by JJ and Chris Terrio. And that's one thing that I gotta give a lot of respect to them about, is that they really are trying to either pay attention to canon material or creating something new that has to do with the Jedi and Sith. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.